Okay, hello, Mihai. I have this question
Hi.
and also some friends. Is how we can forgive ourselves and others. And in this topic of forgiveness, we can make many different topics. Yes, like forgive someone that abused me when I was child. Yes, forgive our parents. Forgive certain society or group, yes, like, and collective forgiveness also. And also sometimes I feel like forgiveness can come from guilt, can come from fear, can come from shame.
Mm.
So the forgiveness have to be, I don't know if have to come from our heart, our compassion. From where have to come this forgiveness? I think I saw a lot of questions there, but maybe
Yeah,
you can help me with
hey,
this.
that's a very good question, and I know what you mean. There are different kind of forgiveness and a lot of spiritual teachings and religions, and our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. All of that. At the end, it says forgive. It's encouraged to forgive um, others who hurt us, and in Buddhism, yeah. So, and it's interesting. We had this conversation about psychology of the cult and the cult phenomena. We had it recently, and then I know that some of our friends or somebody that were still there, they said to you or to me like, "Hey, you can just forgive. It's just forgive." Um, yeah. So I can tell you, I can make it practical. And staying with my experience with the cult, and then I remember that when I left, it was very I had a lot of feelings, and it was like quite a long time ago. My ability to process was more limited, and I had more limited tools to deal with turmoil or strong feelings. So anyway, in the wake of leaving that community, I had a lot of feelings that I wasn't quite aware of all of them. I could see that I was angry. I could see that whenever somebody would talk about the teacher there, or somebody would mention his name, or somebody will talk about something like that, I'll have this fire in my belly or fire in my chest, and then I would go into kind of speaking, heated up how wrong it was and how wrong it is that they are doing. And I had this charge, and I was pretty much identify with that and like feeling right about this. And there's some righteousness about that. Anyway, so soon after that, I got into Zen, a lot of meditating, Zen and Vipassana. And then I went to some Vipassana retreats where you meditate for 10 hours a day for a bunch of days. Anyway, so I went there, and then one of the techniques there in Buddhism was, I think it's called Metapana, if I remember well. And the idea was that after you meditate for a bunch of time, or you meditate for some time, one can end the meditation with this Metapana, which was something along the lines of um, like some kind of mantra towards forgiveness and wishing well those who hurt us. So it was something along the lines of I pardon those who hurt me willingly or unwillingly. May they all be happy. May they have real peace. May they be free from suffering. I pardon, all that. And then there's a reversed one. I ask for pardon, for forgiveness from all of those whom I hurt willingly or unwillingly. May they be free from suffering. May they be at peace. May they find a path. Anyway, so I remember that, also, yeah, so I was doing that and it was feeling good, tears coming down my cheek, and somehow I had the period where soon after the experience with the cult, I was meditating a lot, and I was also influenced, as I said, by these teachings of David Hawkins, where they speak about cultivating lovingness. Yeah, so part of the real, like a solid spiritual path, as I understood it at that time, is to stay away from negative energy fields like resentment, anger, hatred, blame, frustration, all of this. So that's how I understood it then. So I was trying to apply this to forgive what happened, to let go, and to send them loving kindness. Yeah, to send loving kindness and to cultivate this attitude of lovingness, like pardoning and all that. So, I was very sincere about do it. And in the moment, it seemed that it was working, and I would honestly do it. But then, again, I meet with somebody in the same town, and they mentioned the name of the teacher, or I mentioned somebody says something
Yes, of
about
course.
the thing, and then again, fire is like I'm triggered just hearing his name, and anger, rage. Anyway, another time I go meditate a few hours, and I was just getting to go into this kind of shadow work men's group, uh, uh, where I start to process myself in a different way that I wasn't used at the time. So I was just starting to go to these groups, which was very different. So I remember I was meditating for some time, believing that I am doing this Buddhist forgiveness and then it's going well. And after about 2 hours, I remember that my jaw got clenched, and I was like, and my muscles were kind of almost like contracting, and out of the blue, I didn't have any thoughts. And I was like, and just because I was exposed to some different teaching, this working, processing the trigger and all that, I asked, as I was meditating, I asked the jaw, and I asked this energy, like, what is it about? What do you want? What do you want? And then I just listened, and then right away came from my jaw, from the clenched fist, there came this voice like, I want to hurt him, I want to take him down. It was like very strong voice and impulse. And I was shocked because I was like, wow, this is very un-Buddhist of me, man, because I was doing every day all of this loving kindness and
Yes.
forgiveness. And then this comes like that. So anyway, there was a little bit of shock. And then later I kind of understood what's happening. So looking back after years, I got to forgiveness in a different way, basically. So yeah, so that's what I want to say. Usually, most people, when they understand of forgiveness, is that, okay, something bad happened, I was hurt, I was like this, and then we are encouraged to go quickly to let go of resentment, let go of hurt, and to forgive, because Jesus said this, Buddha said that, and I don't know, it's in the pop culture, even this spiritual culture. So now this, and it makes sense because basically, there's another quote I remember that was saying like, if I hold resentment towards somebody that hurt me, and I churn on them, like, then it's like as if I am taking a pill of poison, and I'm expecting them to die. That's, I don't know, wise men said this, and I was like, yeah, man. So I don't want to keep this like this, and then because he doesn't care about all this, so I need to forgive and to let it go. And Buddha said this, and everybody said that. So I was trying to do it from the mind, and that doesn't quite work. I mean, it goes on the top layer of the mind, but as I told you the story, still the resentment, the whole bunch of feelings I wasn't aware of them were still there. So it was a fake forgiveness, a fake, not real forgiveness, So what I understand now, especially after the Scott KILOBY work, the KILOBY inquiries, is this. Basically, if you want the real forgiveness, like that it's you bring up the perpetrator or the abuser or somebody and you are at peace. You know, so real for it's not fake, it's not just spiritual masquerading of forgiveness. So in order to do that, okay, it's important not to rush into that, not to go as, you know, with unprocessed feelings to go into forgiveness, because this is some bypassing of a lot of hurt, but a lot of feelings that I'm bypassing. I'm not allowing them. I'm not feeling them. I'm not letting them be, you know. So it contributes to some kind of repression of various things. So what happened to me was that I started to go to these men's groups, and there we did all kind of shadow work, pretty intense shadow work, and where I brought this in with the cult and with the teacher. And so I processed many times. So what I found out is that there were many layers of feelings, and the anger when I was triggered and charged, that was just the top layer: anger, rage, desire for vengeance. Underneath, there was hurt, really hurt. I was like, how could you do this? You know, I trusted him. The feeling of betrayal, like the some, you know, the innocent part of me that put him on a pedestal and thought that he's amazing, and then to realize that actually it was taken advantage of and all of that. So the sense of betrayal, you know, because it's on me. I put him as like the spiritual father and devoted to the spiritual father. Now it turns out that the spiritual father is not he's not a good father. He's taking advantage of me and using me and doesn't care about me and just doing his own thing. So no, betrayal. Underneath the betrayal, I also had sadness, loss of the connection with him, loss of the connection with many 80, 90 very good friends. There was missing, missing. There was loneliness. There was even love. I had love for him, you know, that made it even more, you know, this kind of anger and stuff. So basically, I needed to go for each layer, meaning to allow each layer of, so the sadness, the missing, the betrayal, even anger with myself. I started at the bottom. It was this kind of deep sadness and deep anger with myself, like saying this, like, how could I have gone against myself for so long, you know? So in that anger and rage towards him or the situation, as I said, there was a big cocktail of feelings. So true forgiveness comes from processing all of them first, not rushing into putting some fake forgiveness on top of unprocessed feelings. So by feeling all of them from awareness and seeing them and unpacking the whole story, including the love that I had for him, and the closeness and the gratitude and all of them mixed together, somehow also after feeling the feelings, there is also this element of seeing this thing, you know, which is tricky. If you do it too early, you are bypassing again. To see that nobody did anything wrong here. And actually he himself has been deceived. And then he himself has been tricked by his own ego, just like I am tricked by my own ego. And actually that everything is just a play of life and of ignorance and of awakening and basically seeing the, also understanding where he's coming from. You know, he was abused, he was having all kind of things, he didn't process his stuff. David Hawkins was talking about this. He was saying that from a higher state of consciousness, from a higher state of wisdom, one can see the basic innocence of everybody. And I think Socrates was saying that everybody is doing what they perceive to be the highest best. Everybody perceives to be doing what seems to be the best. Like
Okay.
even like the Hitler and the people who killed Socrates and the Putin and all of that. These, let's say, people who we consider to be like bad. If we look into their own psychology, if we could have access to their own psychology, in their own distorted mind, they believe that this is the best thing to do. The highest best is to kill all the Jews and the homosexual and the gypsies, is to kill the Ukrainians, or you need to do all of this. So the idea is that it's just people's consciousness is kind of distorted and asleep, and in that lens, this is happening. So understanding that they didn't do it to me is just a phenomena of sleep and ignorance playing out. It's tricky though, because if you come up with this attitude first, hey, I need to let go, and he didn't do it, it's just the universal Tao is playing out. If you come up with this first, then it's not going to work from my experience, because I have unprocessed feelings, So anyway, true forgiveness in a nutshell is to feel everything, all the feelings about it, and all the stories, and unpack them. And then there will come a natural, not like, oh, I need to forgive it. It comes like a natural, effortless forgiveness. But it's like effortless, like an apple falls from the tree. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to fall, So
Yes.
yeah.
Sometimes I feel guilty when I get upset with someone. I feel like when Christ was next to Mary Magdalene, when he picked up her from the guy that was throwing stones to her. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I always try. That scene is always very, very much in my heart and in my head when I throw stones to someone that is doing something bad,
Yeah.
And I always feel guilty to not forgive, And I'm like,
yeah.
how I cannot forgive myself, and also how I cannot forgive the abuser, or how I cannot forgive the teacher.
Than on other people. Yeah, I mean, this needs to be processed. We can't just talking philosophically about it. So I would, if I were to work with someone or with myself, I would process like, okay, so I have this, I don't want to forgive him. I don't want to forgive him. I mean, first of all, I will go through all the feelings. Okay, I bring up what happened, and then bring up all the feelings. There are tricks, inquiries, especially in KILOBY inquiries, you can bring up things like, I'm not angry with him. Will come like, no, I'm angry. I'm fucking pissed. And this is a way to bring up the anger to be allowed and witnessed. The idea to process it is to allow it and witness it. And all that it says without identifying, then it discharges. I'm not sad. No, I am sad. Allowing it to. So there's all of this element of processing all the feelings, but then one can find out what's the payoff, what's the seeming payoff or seeming utility of being upset with myself, and find out what the subconscious will say. If I hate myself that I was negative, or if I'm upset with myself for being negative, which, by the way, in the fourth way, they call this secondary negativity. They say,
Exactly.
I judge somebody, and then I catch myself, which is good, because now I'm awake to my false personality judging. But as soon as I'm awake to that, then I fall asleep. We're like, man, look at you. How can you do that, man? You need, so fall asleep again. Yeah, so I would just with a spiritual mind and philosophy, that is actually a small layer, doesn't go very deep. I like to do this awareness-based somatic processing and find out the subconscious underpinnings of maintaining this guilt, I guess, no, guilt, and which unprocessed guilt or unconscious guilt goes to punishing ourselves, self-sabotage, even accidents. There's Louis Hay was talking about, if one is having a lot of accidents, hit your head or something, it could be also that there's some subconscious guilt and the need to be punished. So it's important to look into that. At the deeper level, let's say if we move from the paradigm that, there are billions of separate people and our consciousness is separate, which is the paradigm of humanity, that we're all separate, and that's why there are all these wars and we are killing the planet and all that. So from another paradigm of that, all of these billions of people are expression of one energy, they're all one. So from this, if one is really glimpsing that, or one is established in that, or has some insight about that, this helps with self-forgiveness, understanding that nobody did it. Basically, this me that did it, this an imaginary me that did it. This happened, this action happened like the weather, basically it rains, it blows the wind, there's a hurricane, it's happening. At some other level, we can see that our thoughts are happening to us, our actions are happening to us, our decisions, we make a decision, this comes as a thought, so it happens to me. So this is a bigger gun to realize that God did it. God did it. God fucked up doing this thing. God did it, and God can do better. Meaning, like me. However, so this is a big gun. This is again can be used to bypass. So I was working at some point with sex offenders. They were part of their parole. And part of coming out of prison, they need to do therapy and mandatory therapy, which sucks. You go to therapy that you don't want to go, but you have to. Anyway, so working on those people who kind of hurt kids and things like that, I wouldn't come up with this. I wouldn't bring this understanding. Hey, man, let it go. Don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. You didn't do it. It's just God did it. I wouldn't bring that there. So one needs to have also, I guess, before forgiving oneself for something, one is good to go at the lower level of work, like self-accountability, which we didn't have in the fourth way.
Sorry, what that means? Self-accountability?
Self-accountability, yeah. This is something from men's work. Let's say, if I show up in a way, let's say with my girlfriend or with someone, I show up in a way that is hurtful. Let's say by lying to them or tricking them or cheating them or something. Said I promised to do something and I didn't do it and things like that. So, and then we have guilt. Yeah, I have guilt or I have shame because I am out of integrity with my promises with other people, or I'm out of integrity with my conscience. Conscience being this emotional aspect of consciousness, like a compass that knows what's right or wrong, not as a morality, as a rule, but something in us as we get more awake, we feel that this is right or wrong, this is hurtful, this is not hurtful. So whenever we do something hurtful, then we have shame or guilt. So like what I like to do in myself and with clients who come, we have this like, man, I feel like shit, man, I'm like a piece of shit. I'm like, man, what happened? Well, my girlfriend this or that, and I've done this, and I'm a piece of shit, Anyway, so there's a process of accountability, meaning that you process, which goes like that. Okay, what was that action? Well, okay, I lied to her. But okay, and I tricked her. Okay, what is the impact? So I person, what's the impact on myself? What's the impact on the other person? Next question is this a pattern? This lying to them or hurting this person, is this a pattern? Or is it the first time? Oh, no, it's a pattern. I've been doing this since I was a kid. Okay. Next question is, what drives this? What drives this pattern? You know, usually lying or hiding or hurting somebody, this is a behavior that comes from something, comes from a deficiency story, like, oh, it's not safe to be myself, I can't be real, I'm unworthy. So it's good to find out what is the origin of that hurtful behavior. Once you get to that, then there are some other questions like, okay, so is this the man I want to be? That I'm selfish and I don't care about others and do only what's good for me? No. Okay. What's the kind of man I want to be? Well, I want to be a man of integrity, that keep my word and is kind. Okay. Then the next question is, okay, now that I processed, I see where it's coming from, I see the impact on myself, I see an impact on the other person, then I can do something to repair a little bit. If it's with somebody else, I can repair. So, hey, part of the repair is to actually do this process with them. So I own, you know, hey, I fucked up. I hurt you. This comes from this and this or that. That's not how I'm show up. And would you be willing if I, you know, clean your back porch for you to show you that I care about our friendship and stuff? So anyway, this is unusual accountability. You know, if our leaders and politicians and all of this, they had accountability, that would be a very different world, you know. What's happening every day, people are selfish and hurting, and they say, no, I didn't do anything, it's their fault, it's this or that. So I would do some accountability.
Yeah,
with
that's
self, yeah.
typical. Yes. Okay. Self what?
Now with what you're saying, like this self-blame or self-upset, this can take the form of a voice in the head, you know, and say, look at you, how can you do this? You know, like a mean parent, basically. A mean voice in the head. And from my experience, who was like that, was very critical and negative and perfectionist, and all the time gave it to the child, and the child later, even the parent might have died long time ago, the child maintains it. It's like internalized in a bad parent in a voice, you know. So one needs to do some work around that. First of all, to become aware that this is a mean voice in my head that talks to me. This voice is not me. I'm aware of this voice. The problem is that we are identified with the voice, you know. Yeah. Also, there's utility, there's subconscious seeming utility of maintaining that negative voice in the head. So I would do some processing around to see what's the seeming payoff. It's an important tool to a lot of the suffering with negative thoughts or beliefs. There is some utility from childhood, although. So it seems like it helped us. It helped us maybe when we were 5 or 6, but now it holds us back. So it's important to understand what keeps that in place in order to let it go.
Okay. Yes, it's a big topic, and I have some friends in KILOBY now that are like not capable to forgive. Even if I insist, just forgive, and they say no, never, no. And I say myself, and I become very upset with them because they don't want to forgive something that happened when they was child. And then I observe that also I become upset with them because actually they are showing me my shadow, you know, that is not healed and wanted to be healed, but actually it's not healed. So it's very tricky, you know. Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good point to bring. That we often, it's a Jungian term that we use in KILOBY, is that we have something in ourselves we don't want to see, or something in ourselves like some type of false identity or aspect and then we push it away. But we will see it in everybody else, and we'll smell it, and we are going to be triggered by them, and we're going to be upset with them because I'm shadowing it out, this aspect of myself I don't want to see, and I see it in others, you know. So that's why when there are strong triggers with others, it's really good opportunity to find out more things in ourselves that are in the shadow. We don't want to see it, hide, deny. Also in KILOBY, I mean, there is this, in KILOBY community, it's very much based in terms of forgiveness with what I said at the beginning. And I like that. So Scott, KILOBY say, hey, don't go into just forgive them. Hey, feel everything first. Feel everything first, because by feeling everything, all of that is discharged, and then that static is no longer there, and there's more clarity. So from the clarity, one can see that, man, so we were saying that this is a good observation to, in sleep, we have this activity of some aspects of ourselves we don't like, we deny, or we repress about ourselves, and we put them in the shadow backpack, and we don't see it. But then anybody who has a similar manifestation, we can detect it right away, and we are triggered by them because they reflect something we don't want to see about ourselves. So we are shadowing it out. So that's an important observation. And like, anything we are triggered about something, other people, it's an opportunity to find out some more things about our false self. Otherwise, you know, in the KILOBY community, I resonate with this approach, which is similar to what I said at the very beginning, not to rush into forgiveness, just because the rushing into forgiveness is more like a spiritual program, or to rush into unconditional love, or to love everybody the same, because they say, oh, it's just love, and we are love, we are made of love, so we are here to love, or hey, forgive. So if this comes as a mental program, this can be fake love, fake forgiveness. So what I know that Scott is on the same page, or I'm the same page with him, is that, hey, first process everything connected to the lack of forgiveness and feel all the feelings, and then the true forgiveness will come spontaneously. And then it's true forgiveness. You don't have to maintain it. The same with this being loving. I mean, I respect David Hawkins' teaching that we're giving on a progressive path, like, hey, cultivate lovingness and benevolence, be of goodwill to all life. And one can do this as a practice, as a cultivation. But ultimately, through this comes spontaneously in a different state of being, where I'm not trying, have positive, be positive, don't have negative thoughts. It's naturally one is benevolent, So I know that in the KILOBY, so maybe people are in the process. They are not rushing into forgiveness. They are still processing the hurt, and I think that's a good thing. This it will not just stop there, most likely, because once we process all the hurt and all the stories about it, there is some natural seeing the situation a different way.